grief. I've been a little lax this past week because I've been dealing with health issues. Um, as everybody knows, the Dragonlance pilot has been officially. Um, Tried to tell him, I'm not Joe Manganiello. I do not have the resources that Joe Manganiello does. But I will tell you right now that there's more than one little guy named Joe out here hustling and bustling and still shilling the Dragonlance. Okay? So I just want to let y'all know that. I certainly don't have all the resources that Joe Manganiello's got. I don't have anything really against the man because I don't know enough about him to really form an opinion. All I can say is I've got what I got, and that's all I got. I do AD&D 2E second edition material, and I bought my books 25 years ago. The crap that Watsy slings around every couple of months doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, we've got our books. We're okay. So anyway, guys, tonight I got a special treat for you. I wrote up something for Northern Ergoth, and as a little added bonus, just to show you how versatile I am, I didn't throw the 5e people or the new Dragonlance books under the bus. Little special Easter egg. You'll just have to listen to it. Okay. I will say that keep making your Dragonlance content, guys. Don't give up. All right. We're currently at the point where the heroes were in Dragons of Autumn Twilight. We're still searching for the true gods. Okay. Watsy didn't have a clue. Okay. They're not gonna have a clue. It's like talking to a brick wall. I'm not looking for Hollywood to make that happen. All right. I don't know, but like I said, guys, we'll just deal with it as it comes. Okay, here in just a second, I'm going to run this. Here, just give me just a second, and we'll get this rolling here. Let me pull this up. Okay, hold on just a second here, guys. Yes. Okay. That. And we want that. Okay. Good. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, there we go. Ba 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 bam, baby. All right, let's get this sucker rolling, guys. All right. Oh boy. Okay.
West of mainland Ansalon stands the island of Northern Ergot. A mountain range runs from the northwest to the southeast corner of the island. The western section is Ergoth proper, which consists of grassy plains backed up against the mountains. The eastern section is the Kender nation of Hylo, which boasts a splendid wood with a wide variety of food and medicinal plants. The southern edge of the island contains a hilly desert of scrub and sage. Neither the Kender nor the humans lay claim to this wasteland. From the World Book of Ansalon, Tales of the Lands Boxed Set TSR 1992, pagina 42. The Kender nation of Hylo was born quite accidentally in 2600 BC when a Kender clan Stoat, ancestors of the Trapspringer Liefdoes, Metwingers, Blackbriars, and Windseeds. Pre-cataclysm Kender families from Goodland, then, pre-cataclysm was called Balivaer or Balinesti, the Kender marooned on a floating citadel, eventually crashed into the Sentinel Mountains of Northern Ergoth. By 2500 roughly 100 or so year later, Forest reclaimed the ruins of the citadel and the Kender had expanded the wooded land east of the mountains. They called their new country Hylo because their western mountains were high while the eastern seaboard was low. The cataclysm split Ergoth into three parts, north, south, and St. Christ, turning Hylo into a port town. A dense forest blankets the northeastern edge of the island of Northern Ergoth. The port town of Hylo remains the only Kender city to survive the cataclysm. The city of Gwyn on northern. Ergot's western shore also boasts a significant population of good land. Kender bought primarily because they are being detained in jail after arriving at port and becoming familiar with someone's belongings by mistake. The ports are often scattered with island Kender and on rare occasion Marak Kender from near Taladas Spine. Most Argothian Kenders speak with an accent, dress different, and display mannerisms not commonly seen in Ancillonian Kender communities. Some resemble German/Dutch/European in their dress, island Kenders coming from Taladas, Minas, or Khur wear everything from pirate garb, sombreros, or even loincloths. Kender wealth varies from region to region depending on what the Kender has with them when they decide to settle and make home. Kender often bring their regional flavors with them, so it's not The Kender nation of Hilo was born quite accidentally in 26.
Hold on a second here, guys. We got technical difficulties here. Hold on just a second. Something's going on here. Fuck. Well, it's not broadcasting. I've got visual but no audio. Something's wrong. Alright, hold on a second here, guys. I'll get it rolling here in a minute. I just gotta... Oh, boy! Shit! Okay, guys. Hold on a second here, guys. We got technical difficulties here. Hold on just a second. Something's going on here. Alright. Fuck. Well, it's not broadcasting. I've got visual but no audio. Something's wrong. Okay. Hold on a second here, guys. We'll get it rolling here in a minute. I might just have to just restart it. Okay, hold on. Alright. Let's redo this. We'll get it. Hold on. Alright. Alright, let's see. Yeah, I don't know why it's not throwing, but we'll get it. Hold on.
In 2600 BC, when a Kender clan asterisk, Stoat, ancestors of the Trapspringer Liefdoes, met.
Stop. There. Back, bastard. Back. Shit. Hold on a minute, guys. Let me fucking...
Metwingers, Blackbriars, en Windseeds.
Damn it. Back, bastard, back.
West of mainland Ancillon stands the island of Northern Ergot. A mountain range runs from the northwest to the southeast corner of the island. The western section is Ergoth proper, which consists of grassy plains backed up against the mountains. The eastern section is the Kender nation of Hylo, which boasts a splendid wood with a wide variety of food and medicinal plants. The southern edge of the island contains a hilly desert of scrub and sage. Neither the Kender nor the humans lay claim to this wasteland. From the World Book of Ancillon, Tales of the Lands Boxed Set TSR 1992, pagina 42. The Kender nation of Hilo was born quite accidentally in 2600 BC when a Kender clan asterisk, Stoat, ancestors of the Trapspringer Liefdoes, Metwingers, Blackbriars, and Windseeds. Pre-cataclysm Kender families from Goodland, then, pre-cataclysm was called Balivaer or Balinesti, the Kender marooned on a floating citadel, eventually crashed into the Sentinel Mountains of northern Ergoth. By 2500, roughly 100 or so year later, Forrest reclaimed the ruins of the citadel and the Kender had expanded the wooded land east of the mountains. They called their new country Hilo because their western mountains were high while the eastern seaboard was low. The cataclysm split Urgith into 3 parts, north, south, and Sankrist, turning Hilo into a port town. A dense forest blankets the northeastern edge of the island of northern Urgith. The port town of Hilo remains the only Kender city to survive the cataclysm. The city of Gwyn on northern Ercot's western shore also boasts a significant population of good land. Kender bought primarily because they are being detained in jail after arriving at port and becoming familiar with someone's belongings by mistake. The ports are often scattered with island Kender and on rare occasion Marak Kender from near Taladas spine. Most Urgothian Kenders speak with an accent, dress different, and display mannerisms not commonly seen in Ancelonian Kender communities. Some resemble German/Dutch/European in their dress, island Kenders coming from Taladas, Minas, or Khur wear everything from pirate garb, sombreros, or even loincloths. Kender wealth varies from region to region depending on what the Kender has with them when they decide to settle and make home. Kender often bring their regional flavors with them, so it's not uncommon to find things Kender borrowed from other cultures. Hilo enjoys a cooler climate than most would assume with its proximity so close to Kryn's equator. When winter sets in, it can snow Hilo enjoys a cooler climate than most would assume with its proximity so close to Kryn's equator. When winter sets in, it can snow frequently, which of course brings a slightly wet snow due to Hilo's mild climate, which is good for packing snowballs. Hilo has a legendary snowball and downhill slalom event held every year on one of Hilo's highest inland slopes. Hundreds of Kender crowd with massive sleds, gnomish inner tubes, and skis in an event that culminates with a huge bonfire. The only caveat is that the festival starts at precisely the time when the worst winter weather hits Urgith, meaning most humans with common sense retreat for shelter until the inclement weather subsides. Meanwhile, Kenders are braving snowdrifts to set up at the events, because they only have a few intermittent days of good snow and then it all melts, but that also leads to kayak and canoe season as they happily follow the melting snowdrifts, making the rivers swell back south and cut out half the time it takes to travel back, if your idea of travel is floating on a log down the river like a salmon. Wiser Kender used the newly built wagon roads the Knights have provided since expanding into northern Urgith from the south. The pass to Huma's tomb in southern Urgith was expanded after the War of the Lands, and this also brought more travelers and pilgrims from Abanansinia into Ergot to seek fortune among the opening frontier. Despite this, the woods and waterways of Hilo and the surrounding Sentinel Mountains are not to be taken lightly. Dangerous and amazing species of every size and description roam just off the roadways of even civilized settlements in Urgith. The Sentinel Mountains to the west and the scrub brush and desert to the south of Gwyn's tundra and grassland keep Hilo fairly isolated from any standing army simply because the terrain becomes so radically different depending on what section of northern Urgith you land on. Certain sections of Ergot are devoid of any civilization. The farther inland you go, habitable spots devoid of native Urgothian flora and fauna that will potentially kill and eat you is another matter entirely. Most people do not travel outside the sanctioned roads and much of Urgith is still wild and uninhabited by anybody other than those strong or smart enough to inhabit the terrain and survive. The forest roads and lumber camps and taverns are always bustling with traveling Kender, The port towns in the east and south along the coast are usually where the island Kenders set up their kip, and the cozy yet lofty confines of the old Hilo citadel are where many of the elder and religious Kender reside for leisure with its many winding hives of streets. Parks and pathways blending into the mountainsides now overgrown by forest but still retain a certain charm as within the nooks and caves and alcoves of the hillsides reclaimed by nature, the Kender have built a formidable bastion from where they can protect those who need sanctuary. Everything in Hilo sort of melts into the background of the mountains after a while. Nature and time reclaim the trash and debris to make it habitable or usable. What humans would see as a jungle hive of mismatched ruined keeps, roads, buildings, caves and squats, the Kender see as a thriving functioning metropolis. In the several centuries since the crash had deposited the citadel of Kender here on this remote island, they found a way to adapt yet retain a sense of cultural tradition not unlike old Kenderhome near Bali for in the pre-cataclysm days. Some of the finest Hopak crafters live in Hilo. A good portion of written Kender history resides within Hilo's many Kender libraries, but getting permission to view them is a task within itself as most Kender rarely stay home all day and a lot of things tend to walk off, just like the Kender. What information that does consistently remain can be found usually with the church. A large section of the scriborium of Gilian operates on one of the lower levels of the citadel, obscured mostly to keep the sensitive documents from being damaged by fire or inexplicable accident. Oddly enough, it has been through the intervention of both human and elvish scribes working with the chantry of Gilian and Chislev that any kind of written Kender history has been retained. Although Kender are renowned artists and writers and thinkers, their works often like their imaginations take off with them never to be found. But if you're at hand to hear it while they're at hand to tell or show it to you, you're in for a tale. For certain. It's not unwise to expect a few embellishments to events prior to them happening. A Kender story, regardless of witnesses, will always have a few embellishments added to it to make it sound interesting. Most of the inhabitants are either very old or very young Kender, with most adults choosing to travel. The exception are tradespeople connected in some way to the burgeoning community of Bali for common to the southwest of Hilo while being endorsed by ruling Sun Emperor Mercader Redick V and the Sandrist Embassy. Many of the tenants who inhabit Hilo's main citadel grounds work for the local chantry as well as the presiding Winseed family, who are the provincial governors of Hilo. They in turn coordinate with the Sandrist Embassy of late to establish trade and commerce for the burgeoning empire. Kron Thistleknot is the diplomatic envoy assigned from Kenderhome and stationed in Palanthas but resides at the embassy grounds near the Hilo citadel. Currently he and Serinda are away on business. As such, ruling appointees are overseen either by the monastic order of Chislev and Gilian or the Sankrist embassy. The current administrator in the AD and D2A paradigm is Falana Winseed as well as several of her children, who oversee the day-to-day business of the ruling Hilo Council. Bali for Common's communal fiefdom as it were is overseen by Dame Damaris Metwinger Trapspringer, Empress of the North, and her husband Trapspringer Vervoet. Together they host the dig of the crashed spell-jamming ship and have retained residence within the old ship's bridge and hull, storing found artifacts after they've been brought in from the marshes or the fields or the foothills. The plantation ground hosts the main building called Trapspringer Mansion, which is part of the ship, connected by a series of walkways spanning across several miles of debris and loose abutments of stone and pre-cataclysm ruins leading on pathways into the mountain forests. Kender tend to inhabit places humans would not logically place a dwelling. For a Kender, it's not unheard of to want to build a series of walkway huts along a canyon cliff, or build a house inside the hollow of a large tree, provided something else big and nasty isn't living there already, like a spider or a troll. Kenders will place doors and hatches and walkways where there aren't any, but with respect to the environs around themselves they blend in. Every piece of a dwelling or furniture has a purpose. Humans see clutter and hoarding. Kender see a kingdom that can only get bigger depending on the stuff they want to add within it. Hilo has often been described as being very hive-like, with it being so entrenched into the Sentinel Mountains and surrounding forest, with its gullies and nooks carved all like resembling the hive of a bee. One of ERCOT's largest apiaries resides near some cliffside caves, home to some of the largest bees on the island. The dwarfs and gnomes as well as the kender all rely on beeswax as a major export as well as daily use. Harming the giant bees is a serious offense, as is stealing their honey out of season. Severe penalties and bounties are brought against any non-kender who foolishly disturb the hives. The kender themselves only brave the bee tunnels in the side of the cliffs if they run out of beeswax, a commodity that in Urguth is well suited for industrial as well as everyday use. Honey is a key component in meat as well, not to mention tons of Urgothian kender foods. If you are on a diet, watch out, as Urgothian kenders have a sweet tooth, and this is so increasingly tantamount around Yuletide season. The local Solemnic Charter has placed a trade limit on molasses and sugar to compensate for the immense amount of sweets produced by the bakeries during Yuletide season just for the kender families alone. Kender who aren't on wanderlust do spend a significant amount of time cooking and baking food. All kender have a hearty appetite despite their small size, and kender banquets spare no expense even at the most meager kender tables. Kender will always acquire food from somewhere. Whether it is palatable to human companions is another matter entirely. DM's note asterisk kenderpak, as it is known, is sold in a densely packed, gummy powdery brick, which is considered raw kenderpak, which can add a +3 buff to all stats for 1 day 6 rounds for any kenders who may consume it, albeit a penalty to their stealth skill. 3 because it causes severe flatulence in kender and crippling constipation in unwary humans who consume too much kenderpak and fail the con check. Kenderpak dough can be prepared and baked into a more palatable and nutritious loaf, but unlike the kenderpak dough brick itself, the loaf doesn't hold much consistency past a normally baked rye trencher commonly found in a fantasy setting used for eating. The only families that might use silverware or plates at their tables would be Solamnic nobles and Urgothian gentry who aren't kender, who can afford such lavish quality of life amenities. Urgothians have been taught to be practical and not wasteful. A good portion of ERCOT's industry, as it were, was preparing and distributing food and rations. Throughout the empire, many of the Urgothian plantations and farms are all vital resources due to the somewhat unsettled vastness of the wilderness tundra and terrain of northern Urguth. Outside of these settlements, one can be hard-pressed to find amenities commonly found in other locales. Northern and southern Urguth is host to giant rhino-like creatures called world striders. Anything that big needs abundant plant life to exist. Couple that with the local monsters and a thriving ecology of flora and fauna provides the area with a vast palette of food for those willing to acquire it, but everything in Urguth is bigger than the kender themselves. DM's note asterisk, if Urguth had a postcard, it would be a well-fed kender sitting next to a giant apple or honeycomb, which actually do exist in some of the trees. These dangerously located specimens are well sought after by foolish kender who can either fall or be squashed by a giant crabapple or grabbed by an angry uber squirrel asterisk. Yes, Hilo has giant things in its massive trees like giant squirrels, spiders, tree nymphs, fairies, ogres, and even giant eagles. The mountains of Hilo sustain life on a massive scale for a myriad of Krine's wildlife, henceforth why the presence of Chislev is strongest there. Things are inclined in accordance with nature, not against it. The natural flow of the earth and the animals that roam its surface are governed by the laws of nature, and not necessarily the whim of a conscious deity like Paladine or Mishakal. It is lawful neutral in its aesthetic towards the inhabitants of Ergot. You either abide or respect the natural order, or the terrain quickly lets you know where one stands. The kender respect the wildlife around them far more than the humans do, so it's unethical for them to do anything that would destroy that harmonic balance. The amount of tiny townships and hillside forest monasteries dedicated to aiding lost travelers are evident as one explores the countryside on their way north to Hilo. Much of the trouble results in unwary tourists getting into tussles with the local terrain or fauna. A traveler can wind up being chased by a bear into a camp of Kender charcoal makers, but due to the remote location he might have a hard time retrieving his lost pack with the maps in it. Kenders think it's rude to antagonize a bear after you ran off and left him your belongings. He's big and stupid, but he's a bear. And he doesn't know any better. Besides, if you mess with too many animals in the forest and are mean to them unconditionally, the forest master will find you. Yes, Urgoth has a forest master too. It's not a unicorn either, it's big. Ergot wouldn't have it any other way. Behave in Ergot. Civilized Hilo, especially around the citadel, blends quite well with the natural environment, so much that from a distance one can only see the smoke from the cooking fires on a rare day that the mountain breeze doesn't carry it off. It's difficult to identify structures from the air due to the proficient ability of the Kender to blend into the mountains and forests, just like the local fauna. They live in complete harmony with nature. A cave-side inlet of a cliff can house an entire family of Kender, who in turn share their home with a giant nest of eagles. A giant goldfish swimming in a lagoon near the coastal port of Eastern Hilo, nicknamed Guppy, is just as apt to be a giant pet the Kender adopt as a seaside mascot. Kender often make exceptions for their animals, and so they tend to make ridiculous accommodations for something as trivial as a herd of geese or a youngling deer separated from its mother. Logical people wouldn't allow wild animals into their house in the dead of winter. It's not uncommon for a Kender dwelling to share meager space with a donkey, a lamb, a dog, cat, several crickets and a snake, provided it's not poisonous or large enough to eat someone. Although pet mice need to be kept separate, and don't ever accidentally wear a ring to turn yourself into a mouse around a snake, because it's not the snake's fault. How would it know any better? Astrid Damaris is quite fond of going to the apiary caves and tending to the giant bees the gnomes keep there. She even brings a gift of flowers occasionally for the queen, albeit through an elvish druid emissary who communicates with the hive mother to indicate if the hive is pleased and not in danger. The forests and hillside cave inlets allow much of the Kender to share their living space with creatures big and small with relative ease, simply because of their ability to adapt wherever they are. DMs note this would indicate Hilo and its coastal environs would resemble real-life coastal Italy or Spain with its mountains, but its climate and location close to Krine's equator also indicates something akin to Hokkaido, Japan, with its snowfall. The Hilo Kender with their slightly religious ways may bear some similarity to the Dutch/Portuguese of the 1600s that traded with pre-Edo period Japan. Their manners and dress would indicate Europeans stuck in an exotic land. For these Kender, they would speak a myriad of languages, but it would be advised to play them somewhat different from Ancelonian Kender. Hilo Kender are sometimes colloquially called highborns, due to their location and status between Kenderholm and Ballyfor, Goodland. Many of them have families spanning back before the Cataclysm, with extremely intricate family structures arranged so that inbreeding doesn't occur. Despite this, they are still somewhat isolated from their Ancelonian cousins and often have attitudes not seen among Ancelonian Kender. Some Argothian Kender speak with a slight accent due to being a remnant of the Old Solamnic tongue, the Barbarian dialects of Khur and the Algoni Strait tribesmen along the inhospitable desert south of Urgoth proper. All of these locales provide a myriad of accents for NPCs. Astrid Damaris speaks with a cadence akin to Zetsa Gabor or Brother Theodore. Pez uses something akin to Cockney English, etc. The Sandchrist Embassy established a university at a suburban plantation outside of Gwent, surrounding the wreckage of a crashed spell-jamming ship spread over the area of several kilometers. Within these communities, academics from Palantis and refugees from Bartorn Ancelon came into northern Urgoth from the south, much to the chagrin of the native Argothians. Despite this, a myriad of cultures made themselves at home, first attempting to set up tent camps bordering the scrub brush and deserts to the south until the roadways were built after the pass was quarried by the dwarfs, after the work crews moved along with the knight's garrison stationed to a new location. the remaining inhabitants set about building onto sections of the crashed Spelljammer's hull, which consisted of the main cabin and some of the rear deck. This building became colloquially known as Bali Verkamen and the University of Strange and Wonderful Things, with adjoining halls set up across the site until it expanded into several subdivided houses occupied no less by a coterie of elves, humans, kender, and gnomes. Most of them were there under employ of the Sanrist embassy, others for the conclave of wizards at Weyreth Tower, still yet others were just common laborers or tradesmen following the settlers coming into northern Ergot. The chantry of Chislev and Gillian supervised most of the incoming settlers by providing help in whatever form would be allowed. Their lawful neutral stance and willingness to cooperate with anyone reasonably good aligned made it easier for settlers to adapt to the rapidly increasing influx of immigrants coming into northern Ergot. It is said one can spend 2 days in an Ergothian tavern and not hear 2 words spoken in common, but you can usually find someone who is fluent in whatever language of whomever you would like to speak to. Ergoth often hosts delegations from parties who wouldn't be caught dead within their respective circles mingling with on non-essential affairs of state. That doesn't apply in Ergot. When in Ergot, people will make exceptions, but one must always be wary what applied in mainland Ansalon doesn't always apply here. The native Ergothians tolerate outside influence to an extent, but social and cultural nuances are still observed when in mixed company, but when in Ergoth you do as Ergothians do. In the 5th Age, Hilo became home temporarily for the entire Kender race, despite there being obvious friction between the afflicted Kender of that era and the true non-afflicted Kender. Further speculation that the ouster of the ruling House Windseed family from northern Ergoth coincided with the arrival of one Billy Juniper going by the name of Belladonna. She seized power within the established ranks of Kenderholm's gentry quite easily, and then promptly expelled its most dedicated and longtime supporters, something an attitude so uncharacteristic of a Kender it is surmised that perhaps asterisk the true Billy was abducted, and whomever this Belladonna is, DM's note asterisk quite possibly Ladana of the Black Robes asterisk, who somehow escaped the 2E paradigm and also disguised herself with a magic ring to look like a Kender. For what purpose is unknown, but Billy claimed to be the only survivor from Goodland after Malistrix burned it to the ground, henceforth. Why would she then come to Hilo? Expel its longtime ruling family, the Windseeds, and install herself as a perceivable dictator? In Hilo of all places? DM's note asterisk, this smells eerily similar to the situation in the Shire in LOTR when Sam and Frodo returned to see Saruman and Grima had taken over, but that never really saw any traction in the films. It does, however, pose an interesting plot point for an adventure, although the author will admit to focusing on AD and D2A era lore versus 5th Age Watt canon in my perceptions, which may or may not be valid. It should be noted that Astrid Damaris Trapspringer does not exist in the 5th timeline for this very reason if this indeed happened. However, always bear in mind, just because a particular person doesn't currently exist in a certain era of the Dragonlance world doesn't mean they can't potentially be someone slightly different in another paradigm. It's certainly wonderful to meet you, Ambassador Bertelbach. Taz extended his hand toward the Ergothian lady with dark brown eyes and olive skin. Your father, Captain Gregory Rosethorn, was a Solamnic knight too, I see? By the way, call me Taz. I didn't catch your first name, Lady Bertelbach. Taz stopped and looked at her, staring at him. Is something wrong? The lady looked at him, possibly annoyed that the Kender had eavesdropped on her private conversation with Lord Gunther. Lady Bertelbach, wait, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. The woman looked away and blushed as if shaking off a memory. It's like I've met you somewhere before, Master Burfoot. But that's ridiculous because you're a complete stranger and a Kender to boot. The girl quickly folded her father's insignia medallion back into the folds of her jacket as if he might steal it. My name is. At that moment a loud foghorn sounded along with the clang of the gnomish steamship pulling away from the dock. The harbormaster's office door immediately flew open as a gaggle of new immigrants came into the office in a whirlwind of confused questions and inquiries about the last evening carriages leaving north for Ballyferkamen and its surrounding plantations, leaving the young lady to be mobbed by a line of people waiting to be processed. It's okay, Christina. Tas na dit. You've got your hands full. I can come back later when it's not so busy. No, my name isn't Christina. The girl stammered. It's. She said her name again but was drowned out again by the blaring horns and noise from the incoming boats and ships unloading travelers. Destiny. At least that's what it sounded like she said. She threw her hands up and apologetically turned away to answer the questions of an upset child estranged from its mother but was found a few moments later when the parent stepped forward and claimed them. It's your destiny to help these people, a most noble goal, Madame Christina Bertelbach. Pleased to meet you and may we do so again. May we meet on better terms, the woman bowed. Have a pleasant day and enjoy your stay in Urgeth, Master Burfoot. Tas added helpfully that she could call him Tas, but to no avail. She was ignoring him and didn't seem to be interested any more about his inquiries about Captain Roosthorn and his missing garrison. Tas tipped his hoepak and bowed politely. In the back of his mind he himself couldn't lay a finger on how he could have possibly known this dark-skinned attractive human Argothian woman, as he'd never met her before this morning before arriving in Ergot.
Okay, guys, what you think of that? Pretty cool, huh? It was a little touch and go for a second, so I had to get it. I hope I got everything. Had some audio problems for a second, but I guess we'll roll with that and let that sit. But I wanted to show y'all that. That's what I've been working on. Okay. Anyways, wanted to get on and run that for you. Didn't want to leave you out in the cold. Guys, I implore all of you, okay, to get out there and make your Dragonlance content. Now, granted, I could get on and do a rant about this and that, about what he does and what they did wrong and this and that, but I don't really care, okay? I'm not really here for that. I'm here to mess with the Dragonlance content that I've been messing with for the past 25 years. I know in another video I said 40, I don't know. 40 and slip, I guess. It come out in 84. I was a baby. They released, I guess, the final Dragonlance Adventures in, I think it was 87. So, it's as old as I am. I was 5 years old when they released the AD&D 2E first edition Dragonlance. So, there you go. Okay. I don't want to babble. I want to let you guys know that Dragonlance is not dead. Okay? I don't give a shit what anybody says. Alright? You still got your books. You still got your games. You can still make your content. Alright? Don't look to Hollywood. Don't look to WotC. Okay? Like I said before, we're kind of at the impasse here. It's kind of like the beginning of Dragons of Autumn Twilight. We're still looking for the true gods. You know, we got a lot of fakers, a lot of false gods, a lot of people like Secret Theocrat. You know, a lot of fucking zealots, a lot of assholes. You know, they're just full of shit. But they're going around, you know, telling everybody else, well, you're canceled, you're canceled, you're canceled. It's kind of like the witch hunt that was going on when the. I know all analogies are bad. I mean, this is just as equally bad, but it's, you know, it's always been the same thing. You know, it's life imitating art. Um, we're at that impasse. Okay. We're still looking for the true gods, and right now, Solace is burning. or rather, WotC is burning. Let's put it that way. And I don't really give a shit about WotC. Okay, Wizards of the Coast has no bearing on the Dragonlance that I bought and paid for 25 years ago. Okay, those books will still be there. Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman wrote those books 25 years ago, and they're still there. Okay, if she never wrote another thing again, good God, the amount of exposure that they've got with those books in as many languages as those books were translated into, and this was all pre fucking internet. So anybody that any critics or pundits or whatever, they can take their fucking newspapers and wipe their asses with them, to quote Andrew Dice Clay. Okay. The new books that are coming out, like I said, guys, it's anybody's bag of tea. Like I said, there, guys, I've read the first two. I'm kind of lukewarm on it, but like I said, I'm not throwing the 5e people out in the cold. I want y'all to know that. I'm not against the 5e people. You know, if that's the system that you want to use, all of this stuff is compatible with it. Okay, your game system doesn't really matter. Okay, if that's the system that you want to use. Now, as far as your lore, okay, it does help, you know, to get your shit straight on that. You know, whether it be 5e lore, 5th Age lore, what have you. That little segment I did right there, I'm not too familiar with 5th Age. I mean, I'm going back and reading up on some of it. From some of the stuff that I've caught online, like the Kencyclopedia, okay, it was your stuff, guys. You all wrote it. I don't know what Kip's problem with me is and don't really care. I didn't do anything to him. Look, dude, it's not a war, okay? If you like Dragonlance, we're all good. I don't understand who I offended or who I pissed off, but like I said, nobody really owns anything, okay? At this point in time, you're going to need a Taz to come over and break their fucking Dragon Orb. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's you, okay? It ain't necessarily all about me. Maybe it's you, okay? Somebody out there needs to take that fucking Dragon Orb and just plop against the side of the wall because they're fighting over it, and then go and do your own damn thing, okay? That's the best I can tell you. I would advise, I don't see as to why you can't do something that's AD&D 2nd Edition based. If it's Random House that is sponsoring the books, and as I understand it, they own most of the copyright still on the old TSR era material. I don't see as to why that Mark Weis and Tracy Hickman couldn't access that and go from that. I realize that it cuts a whole bunch of that 5e audience and modern audience and it just confuses everybody. Only people that are really back there are the Grognards and the OG people. And I know that's not a way to fucking market something because people just, you got to have an approach to Dragonlance. Okay, you got to get people interested in it. Most people aren't. It's not hitting like it's supposed to. It's not blowing the skirt up. Okay? Dragonlance is not Game of Thrones. I don't want it to be Game of Thrones. Alright? goddamn audio is fucking flat again. Oh, I've probably been yabbering again, and it ain't picked up nothing. Shit. It does that to me on occasion. My audio go flat. Alright, guys. Well, I'm going to take off. Alright. I'm guessing that it's still going. You be good. And I'll port this over to YouTube. I'm probably going to edit the hell out of it. Or at least just snip off the section with the bullshit and just post the Northern Ergoff stuff. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. And like I said, subscribe to my channel. If you want some more Dragonlance content. If you got any questions or anything, send me a message on here, on YouTube, whatever. Just don't be an asshole, okay? Because I will ignore you if that's the case. I don't like drama, and I don't put up with BS. So, there you go. Alright, guys. But anyway, if you like Dragonlance, you're okay with me. If I didn't get it said before, like I said, Joe Manganiello, if you've got the resources, buddy, to take your concept for Dragonlance, I would start with a YouTube. Okay? Either YouTube or Twitch. Put some formatting out. Do your Critical Role thing. Do something of that nature. Get some low-key animators and do it in segments. Do it like what I'm doing. Okay? Hey, I know I really shouldn't be giving you advice, but hey, you've got more resources than I do. What? I'm going to say, well, you scared somebody else is going to do something that you can't? Yeah, look, okay, if somebody's got the resources, any of you out there have the resources to make something Dragonlance happen, put your content out there. This is Engine Joe. Y'all be good. Roll on. Love all of you. Okay? Well wishes. There is a new Dragonlance book coming out. Margaret Weiss said that they're going to be at Gen Con. I think they're supposed to be under Random House Worlds or something. I think that's what she had said it was. But, well, I guess we'll see you at some point. I'm going to get back on when I've got some more stuff typed up. Okay, I'm still working. Like I said, I've been more time writing. I want to sit down and play a little bit, like I said. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, all we got's time. I'm dealing with health issues, going blind. Same shit, different day. But like I said, guys, don't get so interpersonal with people. Just keep on keeping on. That's all you can do. Give everybody 2%, do your thing, and go on. Alright, guys. Enough preaching at you. We'll holler at you later. Hold on a minute. Let me check something real quick. Oh, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I cleared that or not.